Alrighty, welcome to week 17, day 2. This is January 7th and 8th, 2021. At the beginning of the week, we started watching this Mr. Bean video, and we were able to explore and see that he was able to see his reflection, but the police officers on the other side were able to look through it as if it were a window. So we're working to try and figure out why that is. Jumping in today, we're going to talk a little bit about this model, make sense of really what sort of details all of the classmates noticed, and then we're going to have a little bit of time to be working on creating our own model. Later on in class, we're going to give feedback to our classmates and then talk about it in small groups in order to try and make sense of what kind of the best way to draw a model or a diagram of this is. Now, missing class, you did miss out on a very epic penguin and polar bear pandemonium, that battle. That's all right, no big worries. But if you want to watch it or see it or hear it, reach out to me. Maybe you can drop into office hours and I can talk you through it. Super epic battle. Anyway, Mr. Bean, why is it that they see him? Why is it that he only sees his reflection, but he can't see them? Again, in each class period, we're going to generate some ideas about what we should include in the model. And hopefully we are going to come up with ideas such as we should include a light source. Where is it that this light is coming from? Because without it, we won't be able to see it. Anything. Probably going to want to include the figures, Mr. Bean, and the investigators. Probably going to want to include this one-way mirror. Maybe some classes will get into the logistics of how we're going to draw this. Maybe some arrows or some pathways to show the movement of light. Some things that probably aren't as essential, those can be things like, oh, well, there's a filing cabinet in the background. There's a table. While this is part of the room, it's probably not something that impacts the way that this one-way mirror works, the way that it's a window on one side and a mirror on the other. As conversations go on, there's several students, as I was looking through Monday's work, that noticed actually there are some different lighting schemes. That one room is very bright and that the other is very dark. Let's go ahead and take another look at that Mr. Bean video and see if you can notice these details. See if you can notice any other details besides that.
He's a genius, huh?
That's what they tell me.
Well, it looks like a fruitcake to me. You willing to take responsibility for his actions? Well, you're a braver man than me, and I single-handedly take on gangs armed with AK-47s. Get him out of here. Tell him his is a butt I would dearly love to kick. And the next time I will.
All right, so as we're looking at this, and let me see if I can get my toolbar back up. As we're looking at this, we see all of these different features. We see the light in his room, kind of right here. There's a lamp, and it looks like there's also some lights up above. And over in this room with the investigators, it does seem like there's really not a lot of light. We can see them, so there is some light either coming through the mirror, through the window, or maybe there's a dim light, but overall it's very bright over in Mr. Bean's room, and it's very dark in this other room. So what can we do with this information? What can we do with these observations we have made about the light sources, the fact that this mirror is almost in two parts, either it's two actual pieces or it just functions differently depending on the light? What we're going to do is we are going to make a model. You can open that up from your classwork tab in week 17, day 2, modeling Mr. Bean's one-way mirror. We're going to open up this week 17, day 2 for your class period. And you'll see that all of your classmates' models are there. All of your classmates' models are together on one set. And you can look at the second page in order to determine which class period, which slide number you should go to for yours. So this is just 5th period, but looking at this, you'll be able to see your names in alphabetical order. So look it up by your last name. Look through that 1st grade column, look through that 2nd grade column and that 3rd grade column. I'm not going to open it up just because we do have student names on here and I don't want to load those on YouTube. But look through those different columns and find your name, and there should be a number on the side of it, and you're going to scroll down to that. So if the first student is Aberdeen Anderson with an A, it's going to line them up with slide 3, so we're going to go and find slide 3 to do that, and I'm going to type my name in here, Aberdeen. This is Aberdeen's model. Not really. Aberdeen is not a real student, or at least not so far as I know. So we're looking at Aberdeen's model, and Aberdeen is going to work on this. You are going to go to the slide appropriate for you, and you're going to work on that. Now, depending on which device you're on, you may notice that there are some additional pieces of information on the sides, or you may not. One really helpful tool that can help you to see these other features is the zoom feature in Google Slides. So you can see highlighted in red here, there's this magnifying glass, and I'll model this back in Google Slides, that will help you to zoom in or zoom out. And also there is, in blue here, I've circled a mouse, which is important to click because if you don't, it tends to just get stuck on this zooming in. You can zoom into a certain percentage, or you can zoom out to a certain percentage, or you can just try to get it to fit the screen. But in this case, of course, some of it is cut off, though you can scroll around. If you like, you can also select it and just click with your left mouse button or a single finger click to zoom in, or you can right click or a 2-finger click on a Chromebook, and that will lead you to zoom out, and you can do that to get to whatever appropriate level you need. But again, whenever it is that you want to stop zooming in and out, make sure to select that arrow, and that'll allow you to start clicking around on the page again. So our instructions. We want to create a diagram to explain what's happening, and to expand on that further, I have this call out in a light blue. Create a diagram to explain as much as you know about the following 2 questions. Why do the men see Mr. Bean? And that's these men over in room B. And why does Mr. Bean see himself and not the men? And again, we have Mr. Bean here. He's able to see his reflection, but he can't see the men on the opposite side. You want to make sure you're using pictures, symbols, and words to explain how the parts of this are interacting, how they are working with one another, in order to cause this phenomenon in which Mr. Bean sees a reflection, but the men see it as a window. You can also record questions just by adding a text box, as you would with any words, in order to ask questions about things that maybe you're not sure about yet, some things where you're stuck. And I have these tools in here. They may be beneficial for you, they may not, but you can drag a light source in, and there are several of these. You can drag a light source. Do we have light in Mr. Bean's room? Do we have a light in the investigator's room? Is it one? Is it several? And I also have these arrows, and you can create your own really easily. You can just go up here and you can insert a line or an arrow, and you can change the thickness of that if you choose to, or you can make it dotted or dashed if you choose to. I just included these, and there are about 20 of each of them because I thought maybe this will make it a little bit easier for the students. maybe it'll make it a little bit easier, and you can just drag it into place, and then you can click one end and show how things are reflecting, show how things are going through the window, or whatever sort of things you want to demonstrate. Is the light going from Mr. Bean's eye to the window and then back to the light, or is it perhaps in reverse of that? Just there as a resource for you to use. Okay, whenever you are done, you will have created a model. Now, if you've missed class, you've also missed out on the opportunity to give feedback to classmates. If you are in class, you are going to go and give feedback to the classmates above you and below you. So if I am the second student, I'll go to students 3 and students 5. If I'm the first student, of course, the one before me is actually going to be the last student, so I need to go down to the bottom and find the last completed model. You could also find the number of the last student by looking at this slide too. Go and give feedback to your classmates. Oh, I forgot one thing. You want to make sure to include a key also. So for your key, you might even delete this, and you might even take one of your arrows and even shrink it up. But you might say that this big long arrow that is a complete arrow, this shows, what does it show? This shows all of the light. Whereas maybe an arrow like this, and hopefully you'll make it a little bit prettier than I am, maybe an arrow like this shows part of the light, or barely any. It's up to you how you use these, whether you're using thick arrows and thin arrows, or dotted arrows and complete arrows. Many different ways you can go about this system. But whenever it comes to feedback, you're going to come in, you're going to drag one of these, and you're going to give one or more pieces of feedback to your classmates and just let them know your thoughts. Wow, I love the detail. No, that's a bad comment. We want to be more specific than that. We'll assume in this case the student has arrow pathways drawn everywhere. Have you thought about showing some other aspect of this? Have you thought about showing how light gets into the investigator's room if they're really only showing Mr. Bean's? Anywho, initial it, actually sign it so that you know who it was from. And then that's it. Maybe go back and see if there's any feedback from classmates. Again, probably not if you were absent from class because your model wasn't there and completed when your classmates did it. But come back over here and submit this to me so that I know, oh, Aberdeen Anderson is done. I can look for their work, I can grade their work, and see what sort of ideas they have generated. I believe that is all, folks. As always, though, reach out to me if you have any thoughts or questions. I'm here to help.